Welcome back to From Nothing to Completionist, the challenge where we start with a brand new World of Warcraft account and attempt to build the highest collection score possible, 1 point at a time. Last episode, we continued our push into Outland and added 28 new mounts, thanks to hitting Exalted with the home factions. We finished episode 11 at 7,334 collection score. That's an addition of 868. That was made up of 4,020 achievement points, 111 mounts, 228 pets, 41 toys, and 102,997 gold earned. Let's jump back in and pick up where we left off. I started off on Maxspy, trying to boost his level to be able to solo all dungeons and raids of interest to us in the challenge to give us double the chance at mount drops. A Diramall East jump run completion saw us skip a whole level again to go from 30 to 32, and another 200 juicy Time Warp badges thanks to the ancient Time Warp scroll. Way back in episode 5, we attempted to start the quest chain for the Venomhide Ravasaur mount, but were gated behind a quest which was not very friendly to modern retail scaling, Toxic Tolerance. At the time, I said we would revisit it with our first alt. Well, now is that time. Even though Maxspy is an alliance, the alliance have their own version of the quest line which rewards the alliance only Winterspring Frostsaber. But this also unlocks the Venomhide Ravasaur for Horde characters. Essentially, this one quest line will give us 2 mounts. The quest involves doing a simple daily in Winterspring for your Frostsaber cub for 20 days. After which, with a little cloth, leather, and gold, you're rewarded with the mount. 1 Winterspring Cub whisker done, 19 more to go. As we were close to level 33, I completed an easy auto-discovered quest in Winterspring to push my next level. This Timewalking event has been a lot of fun, and with the huge level gains, it's also a really good investment. Undead Stratholme allowed us to not only hit level 34, but also jump right to 36 on defeating Lord Aureus Rivendare. This was also the final dungeon we needed to earn the A Timewalking Journey Back to a Classic Dungeon Time achievement for finishing all 6 classic Timewalking dungeons. We had been storing all of our warrior tokens from TBC raids in the Warband bank, and it was time to learn all the tier 4 to 6 appearances they unlocked. And just like that, we were 8 of 9 for T6 and a tidy source of upgraded power for the spy. It was now time, another hugely important milestone for our challenge, doubling up on our mount chances. Now that Maxspy is level 36, he's able to solo all classic and Burning Crusade dungeons and raids. As we're currently farming 4 mounts every possible chance we get, Atuman in Karazhan, Kael'thas in Magister's Terrace, Anzu in Seketh Halls, and Kael'thas again in Tempest Keep. This effectively doubles our chances at attaining the mounts. Yes, it's an additional time sink, but over time, this is really the only surefire way of speeding up the acquisition process. No luck today, and maybe not for another week or months even. But in the long run, adding alts to our farming process is a key aspect of our challenge. On my daily pet loop, after defeating Blood Knight Antari, I used the final wish from Mr. Pinchy and got a 3rd pet. 1 for each of the wishes. Now, they either significantly buff the chances of granting the pet and not one of his other wishes, or I'm just crazy lucky. Either way, I'll take it, not complaining. I finally got around to starting the Ogri'la rep grind. After a short quest chain to unlock it, the rep is gated by a week's long quest grind of performing 3 and eventually 4 dailies a day. Very simple and quick to complete, but it's just long with no way of speeding it up via power grinding. The dailies consist of a game of memory, a bombing run, gathering up some nether rays, and later on at Honored, we open a 4th daily for banishing some demons, which will help with the rep gained per day. But even if you do all of the quests every day, it's still a week's long worth of grind. So with all that in mind, it's better to get it started early so that we can start knocking it off 1 day at a time. As part of our bombing run on the day, we secured the Blade's Edge Bomberman achievement for finishing it in under 2 minutes and 15 seconds. This was basically impossible back in the day if you had a slow mount, but now it's a pretty easy achievement. It took us over a month of fishing dailies, but we finally secured the Strand Crawler pet for the zoo. The Stone Cold Trixie daily allowed us to complete the Beast Battler of Kalimdor achievement. 5 of the 10 family achievements are now done for Kalimdor, 5 more to go. Zonya the Sadist, great name by the way, gave us the experience needed to hit level 88. Just 2 more to go until max level. Yep, my own level. My daily Mana Tombs clear gave me the last bit of rep needed for Silver Moon Exalted, which in turn awarded the Ambassador of the Horde achievement and Ambassador title. Kael'thas in Magister's Terrace on the day finally dropped the pet for our troubles, the Phoenix Hatchling. Now all we need is the mount and the toy, that's all, any day now. I wasn't specifically grinding for Outland fishing, but just from doing the daily every day I amassed enough points to hit 75 and earn the Outland Fisherman achievement. The cooking daily on the day gave us the recipe for the delicious chocolate cake. This is pretty massive, as it's often the hardest of the recipes to get from the cooking daily bags. Now we're missing just 3 recipes from the daily. We'll keep going and hope to check it off in the coming week or 2. I picked up the last 2 trainer taught Burning Crusade cooking recipes, which was enough to grant the 75 cooking recipes learnt achievement. My French is terrible, I'm not even gonna attempt to say it. Continuing with the secondary profession achievement march, catching a fish from a bluefin school was the last pool type I needed for the Outland Angler achievement. Lydia Cost Pet Daily saw Maxspy ding 37. Now that Max Returns is approaching max level, yep, I'm going to patent that one for sure, I'm going to be doing more pet dailies on Spy to not lose experience I could be earning, and use him to complete the family achievements in Eastern Kingdoms for all Alliance trainers. While running the Steam Vaults on Heroic that next day, I unlocked the Guardian of Cenarius achievement for hitting Exalted with Cenarian Circle and Expedition. This also unlocked another title of the same name. With that, I of course flew straight to the Cenarian Expedition Quartermaster to buy all items that rep gated, including the tabard and the missing transmog, but the main item of note was the Cenarian War Hippogriff, for which there is an achievement plus collection score increase for yet another mount. I then realized that we had also hit Exalted with Thrallmar last episode, but I never bought the Exalted items from the Quartermaster, so we flew over to Hellfire to pick up the missing tabard and transmog pieces. Again, I'm not really focused on transmog for this challenge outside of those tied to achievements, but if I see something on the vendor I don't have, I'll definitely pick it up all the same. On the next day's Magister's Terrace and Maxspy, Kael'thas again dropped his pet, the Phoenix Hatchling. 2 days in a row, but still no mount or toy. The search continues. I ran a few Timewalking dungeons on Spy for the day and dinged level 39, and then 41, before capping it off with a Dead Mines, which saw me hit level 42, 43, and then right to 45 on Van Cleef. A gain of 8 levels from 3 dungeons in less than an hour. Just wild. I went and gave my Winterspring cub some love, feeding him some bear meat to make him big and strong. 2 whiskers of 20 down, 10% on the way to our new mount. Switching back over Horde side, Blood Knight Antari popped the 500 daily quests achievement. Now, this achievement chain does go up to 10,000, so we're barely scratching the surface of our ultimate goal. But as we unlock more alts and have more easy dailies available in future expansions, this will actually be not that hard. A victory over Ras-An leveled our Ghost Shell Crab to 25 and popped the Pro Pet Crew achievement for raising 30 pets to level 25. This gives us a slightly better pet trap, which will make it easier to capture pets in the long run. I kept up my daily routine of farming enough materials to spawn Tarok twice, but had no luck up to this point. At least the BOEs he drops does have a chance of being pretty valuable, so it's not a complete waste. Similar to the Blade's Edge Bomberman achievement for the Ogri'la bombing daily, Skyguard has its own similar one for completing the Fires over Sketis in under 2 minutes and 15 seconds called Bombs Away. Again, it was a pretty easy achievement with our epic flying mount and another 10 points in the bag. I'd sold my last Allbeast leggings for a tidy yet cheap 6k, and I thought if we could perhaps farm up another one, we could get another sale, maybe for even more. Sure enough, it dropped very soon after starting as I added it in on my daily route in Winterspring. I'm going to put it up on Maxspy's auction house as it's going for a lot more in his realm and hope for a sale there. While in Winterspring, Stone Cold Trixie also gave us the Undead Battler of Kalimdor achievement for our troubles. Then it was back for some more low-hanging fruit, my favorite. I remembered all the way back in episode 1 when we quested through Azshara, our very first zone, we came across the vendor Tex Vorticol, who had a toy for sale for 5k. Back then I laughed to myself as that was 10 times more than what I had in my bags. But now that we have some gold, it's time to check off this item. Starting with his Haunted Locket, which turns me into a dead Night Elf female. Thanks. I switched over to Spy and completed the Alliance Balloon quest chain in Stormwind. We had done a similar quest chain in Orgrimmar to unlock the Horde Balloon, but this technically counts as another pet and 3 more collection score. Also in Stormwind, the vendor Lenny Fingers McCoy sells the toy Bombay's Color Seeing Sauce, which changes your vision to be one of 6 colors gradually over 20 seconds before going back to normal. Yeah, it's a weird one, and I'm sure there's some lore or story behind it, but the main thing is that it does give us 5 more points. Continuing with our hidden corners of Stormwind, I camped for the rare vendor Lil Timmy for about 30 minutes until he spawned and offered me his limited quantity white kitten pet. Yes, I could have bought it in the auction house, but going back to my rule, I have to farm for something for at least an hour before unlocking the ability to buy it if I want. Every hour of farm increases my budget by 10,000 gold. It's my bad luck prevention mechanic, but also in place so this isn't just an auction house challenge series. I realized there were quite a few Alliance vendor pets I was missing from the collection, so I made my way to Darnassus to pick up the Great Horned Owl and the Hawk Owl. Then it was off to Exodar to snag the Blue Moth, White Moth, and finally the Yellow Moth. Then, sticking on Maxspy, I decided to run Molten Core for another shot at picking up T1 Transmog, as we're still missing the achievement for completing a full 8 of 8 T1 set for any class. After that, I went over to run Blackwing Lair and Spy, and Razorgore dropped his Untamed Hatchling pet. If I had infinite time, I would run all possible raids on as many characters as I have, but it's super time consuming, and outside of the mount instances, which I always want to run, my goal will be to run 1 to 2 additional raids each week on Spy to try and get class armor achievements faster. For the 3rd day in a row, Stone Cold Trixie gave us a Family Battler achievement. This time around, it was for Beasts. Elena Flutterby gave us level 89, just 1 away now from max level, having never stepped foot into a midnight zone. I had to get my classic cooking to 300 so I could learn a few of the recipes from Burning Crusade needed for the Outland cook, weirdly enough. You would have thought all needed recipes would require Outland cooking, but that isn't the case, and a few require 300 classic cooking. For my final Timewalking dungeons of the session, Undead Stratholme saw me ding 46, 47, and then leapfrog to 49 on dungeon completion. With Kalimdor family pet battling achievements nearing a close, I decided to start building my rematch save groups for Eastern Kingdoms and started with Everessa in the Swamp of Sorrows. Defeating her gave Maxspy level 50. After this, we made our way to Winterspring again for our 3rd Cub Whisker. Another day had passed, and while doing my usual Skyguard loop to be able to summon Terok, he finally relented and dropped the Time Lost figurine toy on my 9th kill. Not bad luck at all, but it's a farm I'm happy to be done with and frees up more time for other items. Not to mention, it's one of the coolest looking toys and one of my favorites in the entire game. My big spending continued as Harris Pilton had 2 ring toys I needed for 3,000 and 5,000 gold. They flash on my finger, which is cool I guess, but more importantly, it unlocks 10 more collection score. To give an example of just how fast the Ogri'la dailies are, this is my run for the 3 current dailies, which clocks in at around 6 minutes total. They made some huge quality of life improvements on the Netherwing quest, as in the past you had to weaken them to 35% before you could capture them. Now you can just capture them from 100%, which is really nice. I had finally grabbed enough mining materials to level blacksmithing and engineering to 300 on Maxspy. But the next step was to smelt it all down. This process alone took over an hour in game, and over 1,500 smelts were required. Here's our final list of minimum items needed. Now the next step, which will take much longer as well, is going to actually level the 2 professions. I didn't have the drive or heart to do that immediately, but at least they can now live in the war bank, and I can when ready. Then it was time for Nagrand, one of the last 3 zones left in Outland and home to the timeless Hemet Nestinwari. Like Blade's Edge Mountains, it took over 2 hours, with some of the required quest trains even taking me back to Terakar a couple of times, into the Auchenai Crypts to defeat the final boss, and up to Zangarmarsh and Blade's Edge Mountain as well. A throwback to some of the more meandering quest lines from the original vanilla zones. Let's get it done. Highlights from the trip include catching an uncommon Clefhoof Runt, completing the Hemet Nestinwari quest chain to award the Hills Like White Elk achievement. Forge Camp Fair was the final subzone needed to pop the overall Explore Nagrand achievement. As part of one of the final quest chains, we had to gather an item from Zangarmarsh, and on our way there we saw Martikar, our final rare needed for the zone, bringing us to 11 of the 20 required for the Bloody Rare achievement. And then finally, after all the back and forth, we earned the Nagrand Slam achievement for completing all required chains. By this point, the Burning Crusade Timewalking event was in full swing, which meant that all reputation gains for the Burning Crusade was increased by 50%. As such, just from completing all the quests in Nagrand, we were only 11,000 rep away from Exalted with the Maghar. Killing ogres now granted a juicy 15 rep each, plus 10 of the war beads they drop could be turned in for 750 rep, up from the usual 500. I already had almost 40 beads earned from questing, so it was time to grind up 100 of them. After that was over, it was a quick flight back to the NPC, Warden Bullrock, to turn them all in, which gave us 3 juicy achievements worth 50 points. Maghar of Draenor, the Diplomat for hitting Exalted with Sporagar, Timbermaw, and the Maghar, which also unlocks a title, and then finally for 25 Exalted reputations. Yes, 25, wild just how far we've come. That meant it was mount time. The Maghar gate 8 Talbot mounts, and now that we hit Exalted, it was time to pick them up and their tabard, which gave us the 25 tabard achievement for another 10 points. Now time for some mount learning audio spam. Just like that, we're up to 120 mounts. I changed gears for a while and ran Karazhan on Maxspy for fun, and along the way we got the Menagerie Custodian pet from the Curator, which I hadn't got up to that point. Completing the Winterspring daily for my cub then gave me my 4th whisker, 20% there. At this point, the poll results I ran had overwhelmingly spoke for grinding Netherwing from 0 to Exalted in one sitting, so that was next on the agenda. Time to roll up our sleeves. As this was the 50% bonus Timewalking event, it meant the initial questline gave 63,000 rep with the Netherwing, which took us right to Revered, rather than to neutral as it otherwise would have. That alone was a huge bonus. Still, it took us over 4 hours to grind all the dailies, quests, and those pesky eggs. Many other people had the same idea, and egg competition was fierce. While I got early drops from mobs, it then went really cold towards the end when I needed only 3 eggs to hit Exalted. I went over an hour and hundreds of mobs and skinning and mining without seeing a single egg. The server just had enough with gifting them, so I bit the bullet and bought the items I needed for the final quest I hadn't done, the Soul Cannon of Reth Hedron, which was good for 1500 total rep from the 2 quests. Exalted finally. The flight back to Shatra on what felt like a plus 25% speed mount took forever and a day. Then to have to fly all the way back to Ledge to buy the other 5 mounts. Still, when all the dust settled, 4 short hours later we had the achievement for hitting Exalted and 6 shiny new Netherwing Drakes added to the collection, which has now grown to 126. Some quick highlights from our journey were catching an uncommon Felflame, defeating all the Dragon Riders on the Ledge allowed me to challenge Captain Skyshatter, which gave us the achievement Skyshattered for defeating him. Finally, the juicy pop for On Wings of Neither, Exalted with Netherwing. Challenge accepted and completed. What's next, YouTube? On that high, we're going to wrap up the episode. We definitely made the most of the past few days of gameplay, and with the rest of the Timewalking event ahead of me, I'm hoping to continue grinding out as many Burning Crusade reputations to Exalted as I can before it goes away. We finish at 4,265 achievement points, a gain of 245 over last episode's final tally of 4,020. That brings us to 464 total achievements out of 5,863, knocking on the doorstep of 8% completion. The grind is on top of pet battles, mount farming as many times on both characters as possible, rep farming, and Ogri'la dailies, we completed Nagrand, grinded the Maghar to Exalted, and then capped it off with Netherwing to Exalted as well. We end at 126 total mounts, an addition of 15 after adding 28 last episode, 43 mounts in 2 episodes. For pets, our final tally is 241, a gain of 13, while toys went up 5 to 46. Next up is our gold calculations. 7,523 gold looted, plus 15,258 gold from quest rewards. Now it's time for the mailbox. This is probably our best transmog week to date. I've virtually stopped selling most trade goods as I'm stockpiling for my housing decor challenge and to level engineering and blacksmithing. So the lion's share of our revenue is coming from BOEs. With that said, standouts include the extra shadow dust we had in our bags that I no longer needed to spawn Tarok with since we got the toy. A bunch of random greens and blues in the 500 to 1000 gold range, and finally our biggest ticket item, a barbaric loincloth for 11.5k. Let's get all of it into our bags. Now, let's take a look at our TSM revenue, which counts all vendor and auction sales. That now reads at 117,091 gold. However, we now have Maxspy as well, who's generating his own revenue and sales. Honestly, I'm not so sure the best way of accounting for all this now that we have 2 tunes. We are going to add more in the future as well, and I don't want to spend 5 minutes at the end of every video counting beans. We will at least for TBC though, I figure. Between gold looted, quest rewards, and total TSM revenue, Spy had a further 3,621 gold. Adding it all up gives us 143,492 gold revenue earned, an increase of 40,495. Good enough for 286 total collection score for gold. 8,024 collection score, a rise of 690 since last episode. Thanks for watching as always. Hard to believe we're now more than halfway to Wrath of the Lich King. I'm having a blast in the Burning Crusade so far and really enjoying this last final push to the next expansion. 1 point at a time, 1 goal at a time, 1 expansion at a time. Happy collecting, everyone. I'll see you in our next video.